Don't look now, but the Minnesota Timberwolves are 11-12. They are the 9th seed in the Western Conference and have a pretty, I'd say, not sizable lead, but they have an almost 2-game advantage over the Sacramento Kings, who are the 11th seed. But they are a half game back of the Los Angeles Clippers for the 5th seed in the Western Conference. The Western Conference has been wide open, and it looked like the Timberwolves season was starting to slip away, and we were starting to ask questions again about this franchise. They started out the season 3-1, then went on a 6-game losing streak that just saw a bunch of the same problems. Anthony Edwards maybe taking a little bit too much of the usage rate from Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell, but a few changes, a few tweaks, and a defense that has actually been good all year has kind of saved the Timberwolves season. So watching a pretty good amount of their games this year, I wanted to point out some things that I think have been key in turning around the Timberwolves season. Of course, Minnesota fans, if you think there are some things that you feel have been crucial to the season's turnaround, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But I wanted to just list 3 important things and 3 things that have actually stuck out to me in this turnaround. So number 1, let's start with the defense, which has been good all year. They are 5th in the NBA right now per Cleaning the Glass in defensive rating at 106 points per 100 possessions allowed. And there are a few reasons for that, but mainly it seems like the Wolves have switched up their defensive scheme a little bit. In the past, the Timberwolves have ran this drop coverage. Players would just basically walk into mid-range shots. And this has been something that's been pointed out by media in Minnesota before, and they've switched it up this year. They have their centers playing higher at the level. Cat is more mobile in that way. He doesn't really have the defensive instincts of a Rudy Gobert or a Joel Embiid to be dominant in drop coverage. And I feel like having Cat playing higher at the level has been more suitable for his skill set. He's long, he's athletic, he can actually move his feet a little bit, and I feel like the hedging and him playing higher on pick and rolls has really helped out the Timberwolves defense, and the Wolves have really just gotten better also at rotating off of that because the Wolves have a lot of long and athletic wings on this roster. And that's including Anthony Edwards, that's including Jared Vanderbilt, Jaden McDaniels, Taurean Prince, Josh Okogie. D'Angelo Russell has been a C+ defender this year. This is really the best I've seen D'Angelo Russell play defense. Now, I'm not going to go as far as some Timberwolves fans say and say that he's elite or a very good defender. I think he's been really solid. I think he's been a C+ defender, and he absolutely has not been a detriment. They have been more on a string this year, and I really think the scheme has helped out. And they have a lot of switchable players too, like I mentioned earlier with all the wings. They are 2nd in deflections per game. If you just look at all the hustle categories and the defensive categories, the Timberwolves are right up there. They play aggressive, they're able to fly around, and it's been really awesome to watch. Can't forget about Patrick Beverley either, because he's part of a crucial lineup change that I'm going to bring up later. A consequence of the defense is the Timberwolves are allowing a lot of corner threes, but they haven't really been bitten by it yet. But they are limiting three-pointers. They are allowing the right shots in the mid-range as well. But the Wolves staff has switched it up, and it's really helped out the Timberwolves because their offense is only 20th right now, but because their defense has been so good, and they have lineups where they are just really just potent offensively, that has helped the Wolves turn it around from basically their season going by the wayside early before November 12th, and after November 12th is pretty much when their turnaround happened. And the key for that post-November 12th turnaround has been inserting Jared Vanderbilt in the starting lineup. Jared Vanderbilt is an absolute menace on the offensive glass, man. He's really just been, it's exhausting watching him because he's just flying everywhere, crashing the glass. On the defensive end, he's been using his length, his athleticism. He might have a slender frame, but he's strong, wiry strong, and he's just been deflecting passes. He's been getting steals. He's been help side blocking at the rim. And ever since he was inserted into the starting lineup, his numbers have just gone up. Jaden McDaniels got benched because he was just let's be honest, he was putrid offensively before he got moved to the bench. And I think Jaden McDaniels has kind of been settling back into his old role a little bit, and he's a bit more comfortable. But Jared Vanderbilt doesn't really need the ball in his hands to be effective. And just look at these numbers since November 12th compared to before. His offensive rebounding is absolutely insane. It's nearly at 4 a game. And during this stretch, he's been second in the league in offensive rebounding at 3.9 a game, nearly 4 a game. That is absolutely wild. He is just giving the Wolves extra possessions, crashing the glass, just being a menace, drawing fouls because people just can't keep him off of the glass. He's averaging over 10 rebounds a game since November 12th, averaging nearly 2 steals a game. Just, he's everywhere on both sides of the floor. And the Wolves injecting his energy and his just tenaciousness on really just, it's a motor thing when you want to get as many offensive rebounds as Vanderbilt does. And it's just really jump-started the Timberwolves. Here's a lineup for you that has just been absolutely dominant for the Timberwolves this season. The D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, and Karl-Anthony Towns lineup has an offensive rating of 136 points per 100 possessions. The offensive production that lineup spits out is flames, lava. It's insane. And then their defensive rating is 85.4. Their net rating is over 50. They are killing teams with this lineup, and ever since they have gone to this lineup with Patrick Beverley, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Vanderbilt, they have just been killing teams. Now, it sucks that Patrick Beverley is out, and of course, the Wolves lost back-to-back road games in Washington and Brooklyn, and Karl-Anthony Towns had that unfortunate fall in the Washington game. But the point is, the Wolves have found a lineup, and a lot of teams need this. They need a go-to lineup where they know they can just boat race teams out of the building or get them back into a game if they're down or something like that. And Jared Vanderbilt, the fact that he doesn't need the ball and he can impact a game like this has done wonders for the T-Wolves, because we all know the big three of D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, the big storyline early in the season among media and some Timberwolves fans on the internet has been, okay, how can we get Karl-Anthony Towns more shots? There's that video, of course, that happened earlier in the year where Karl-Anthony Towns started walking back on defense because he knew Anthony Edwards was just going to chuck up a 3, and he did, and Cat was already walking back. You kind of need players like a Patrick Beverley and a Jared Vanderbilt that are just willing to not care about their scoring numbers and willing to do all the other little things. And with this lineup, they have just been absolutely annihilating teams. Before November 12th, like I said, the Timberwolves started 3-1, then they lost 6 straight, then they went with Jared Vanderbilt in the starting lineup, and they have won 8 out of their last 13 games. This lineup switch has been really, really smart by Chris Finch, and it's helped the Timberwolves be a half game out of the 5th seed. Speaking of the big three, it was very apparent that Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Anthony Edwards had to figure out how to divvy up the touches amongst themselves because it was kind of out of whack early in the season. And once again, tracking this stuff before November 12th, Anthony Edwards was taking nearly 23 field goals a game, while D'Angelo Russell took just over 16 and Karl-Anthony Towns took nearly 17. In my personal opinion, Karl-Anthony Towns should have been getting the most shots, but of course, it's hard for a big man to get the ball because he's not the one bringing the ball up the court. Most of the time, it's the guard. But Karl-Anthony Towns needed touches. If you look at the touches per game on NBA.com, they were all over 70, but D'Lo was at 74.4 per game. Anthony Edwards was at 72.4, and Karl-Anthony Towns was at 70. And if you look at the time of possession numbers like you see up on the video, you could just see how out of whack it was. After November 12th, it's kind of shifted a little bit, and it's been distributed a little bit more evenly. I would still like to see Karl-Anthony Towns get a little bit more touches because I made a video on him over the summer. I just think he is an all-world talent, especially on offense. But you can see the numbers up there with the touches, the time of possession, the field goal attempts after November 12th. Karl-Anthony Towns has really benefited from that. D'Angelo Russell, though, has benefited the most from this. And D'Angelo Russell has been solid this year. I have to say, I was off the D'Angelo Russell train this summer. I just didn't think he was going to contribute to winning. He had that one all-star replacement season in Brooklyn, and still, he hasn't really reached those levels of efficiency yet on offense, but he has been a great distributor. His turnovers are down, and if you just look at the numbers across the board, not just the touches or the time of possession, if you just look at the basic stats before November 12th and after November 12th, you could just see that the numbers have just benefited everybody involved. Now that D'Angelo Russell kind of has the bulk of the touches now, and Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns are kind of hovering around the same touches, it's just not as out of whack as it used to be, and you could see it's benefited for the team. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the other bench players like Naz Reid, Josh Okogie. Jaden McDaniels is now looking more comfortable in his role. There's just a lot of talent on this Wolves roster, and they've been in a lot of fun, close games this year. I mean, Josh Okogie had a really key block against the Indiana Pacers in what was another close game for the Wolves. And really, it was after that Suns game where everything kind of changed. They've had some really good wins over teams like the Heat, and their talent is just always showing on the forefront. And by the way, I fucking love Anthony Edwards. I love his style. I love his attitude. I love the fact that, and calling him a football player turned basketball player, well, it's kind of accurate because he did play football, but it would kind of do him a disservice because he is just a hooper, man. And the fact that he could just use his athletic football-like body to his advantage on the court is just something special to watch. The personalities of him and Cat kind of blend together in a way where you could see how these two can lead the franchise going forward, along with D'Angelo Russell distributing everything. Obviously, the Wolves still have a lot of work to do. They're 11-12, but this is a wide-open Western Conference. A lot of stars are out. It's clear that the Warriors and the Suns are the two best teams in the West and in the NBA, but the rest of the West is wide open, and you could see with the Wolves' tweaks here and there to the lineups, they need to get healthy again because, as with Minnesota, if something starts going good, some weird stuff happens, or some really ill-timed injuries happen to them, just something always happens as stuff starts to get rolling. So hopefully Karl-Anthony Towns can get back and Patrick Beverley can get back. But the Timberwolves should make the play-in this year, and if they don't, it's an abject failure because the Kings stink, the Blazers also stink, and I'm just tired of watching that same team over and over again. I'm really rooting for the T-Wolves to make it to the play-in, or get the 6th seed or the 5th seed, because I absolutely think it's attainable. I mean, it's a tie basically from 5 through 10. It's all separated by half a game. And if the Timberwolves can continue to string some more consistency, we could see them in the playoffs.